You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello and welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. I'm your host for today, John Townley, and I'm joined by club correspondent Ashley Priest. Ash, how are we?
John in the host seat. I'm liking this. I'm liking the vibe. I'm all right, mate. It's good to see you. Dan's skiving in the background, pressing all the buttons for those that are wondering. So, yeah, Dan's put the pressure on John today. John's in the manager's chair. I'm all good, mate, yeah. Finally got some news of that Kamara injury, knee ligament damage. So that came out today. But, yeah, international week, quite dull. McGinn scoring for Scotland, as always. But, yeah, going well, mate, and looking forward to Leeds in next week.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dull one at the moment. It's a slow news week next week. I don't know if that'll pick up either. The weekend's probably going to be quite a boring one, but maybe a welcome break for Villa. 7 points out of 21, 7 games in, slow start probably. I don't know, maybe that dresses it up a little bit. Defeats to Bournemouth, no show at Palace, giving West Ham their first points of the season, the first goal. What's your overall reflection after the 7 games, Ash? You know, what are we thinking so far?
Yeah, I think it's sort of very underwhelming, isn't it, really? It's probably being a bit kind, really. Very alarming opening day defeat down at Bournemouth. Very alarming. Managed to get over the winning line against Everton. And yeah, just flat. But the last 2 performances for me have been, okay, not Friday wasn't great, but you got to win ugly sometimes, as Gerrard says. And Villa showed when they need a result, they can dig in and get one. So that was positive. The Man City game was the game of the season, performance of the season so far. Just shows what Villa can do with the game plan and nailing that. So that was a big plus. And we're coming off the back of them 2 performances going into Leeds next week now. So, yeah, something to build on. But again, it's that injury to Kamara is just lingering in the back here. No Carlos. How's Cash going to be? Lucas Dean now, he's injured. So it's piling up. We love it, don't we? All the chaos and that. It's just, yeah, never plain sailing, is it really? So I haven't won away from home yet as well, John. So I've got 2 away games coming up. I think 6 of the next 9 are away from home as well. So we're going to find out a lot about Gerrard's Villa in that time. And yeah, all eyes on this next little batch of games, isn't it now, John, before the World Cup? Where will Villa be come end of November? That's going to be big, all eyes on that one. Yeah, we'll find out a lot in the next few weeks as well. Leeds and Forest, yeah, looking forward to them. Exactly
that. I think it's a weird season. It's already been chopped up into 2, and we're about halfway through when it comes to the World Cup. We've had 7 games now, but for Villa it seems like a bit of a, I don't know, maybe say a welcome break. We had the City game, we played well played okay against Southampton and got the 3 points and first clean sheet of the season, which is obviously a positive. So Leeds away, Forest away, 2 massive games now, but being rocked by a couple of injuries, so it's a tricky one. But today we're going to be evaluating just the first 7 games of the season. So let's get into it then. Obviously, Ash, you do your player ratings after every game. So you did a piece early this week with it being an international break, the ratings of the players so far this season. You kind of go back to front. Yeah, back to front. We'll start with Emi Martinez and we'll contrast and compare as we go along. For anyone who wants to read Ash's piece, we'll throw it as well into the comments section. So starting with Martinez, Ash, you rate him 7 out of 10, safe pair of hands. 7 out of 10 is very steady as well, isn't it?
I love these player ratings. Get so much stick for them. I can never win as well, John. I'm either too generous or too harsh. We
should probably cut ourselves a bit of slack as well. It's very tricky to do your player ratings when you report to do. It's very hands-on match though. So you can't just watch the game and watch every pass that Douglas Luiz makes. So cut us a bit of slack on that one. But no, go ahead, Ash. Martinez. Yeah.
Martinez, I just love him. I do. I've given him a 7, probably a bit high. I don't know. I do like Martinez. I think the game against kept the score down against Palace. Everton, he was crucial. A crucial side before Villa went on to win that one. But Martinez has been sound for me. Okay, he hasn't performed like the way he did when he first came in with them clean sheets and just how commanding he was then. But yeah, love everything about Emi Martinez. Been one of Villa's better performers. That's fair to say. I love the camarade who's got the North Stand now as well, behind the goal in the second half. Yeah. And the way he goes down as well, he's doing that on purpose, isn't he? 100% ball in time. Just get over that winning line. And like you say, he's did an interview today in Argentina. He said he's off the bread. He's banned the bread. He loves a can of Coke if he wins a game. He's canning that now. No Coke. Wants to get himself in prime condition for the World Cup. So what a guy. His interviews are always great as well. So humble, isn't he? And so he's really funny. And I don't think he means to be. But yeah, great guy, Martinez. Fantastic signing for the football club. And he's been, like I say, John, one of the better performers for me. I think you can always rely on Martinez. I think he had a shaky one at the Emirates, didn't he? He was there, wasn't he? A couple of shaky ones for the 2 goals.
That's the only time.
He's been okay. Martinez for you?
Yeah, I think there's probably one of the only times he's had a real moment. I think since we signed him, I think he had Bruno Fernandes as well, Man United last year. Or last season, sorry. But no, 7 out of 10. I think that's probably the minimum you give him. It's hard to give any players at the moment anything more than 8, just because of the start we've made. Martinez could have been an exception if he's keeping us in games, but obviously sometimes you're just powerless. At the end of the day, he's only a keeper. But yeah, we know what we're getting from Martinez. I stand by what I said in the summer. I think he probably should be captain. That's nothing against the Tyrone Mings or a John McGinn or an Ashley Young or whoever else wears the armband, but I just think he gives you so much. And he is for me, the one player who is undroppable in that team, and he's going to be playing every game, injury permitting. So yeah, he gives us everything. He's a leader. He speaks well. He does everything that you want from your goalkeeper in general. He's a safe pair of hands. He's brilliant. So 7 out of 10. I think that's probably the first one that we'll agree on. Ash, Matty Cash.
Well, John, on the captaincy there, John. Would you begrudge Gerrard changing the captaincy again? Because look what it's done for Mings. Mings has been brilliant with the armband off him. Take the armband off McGinn. Can we see the McGinn of old again? I know it's a bit of a contentious subject, but I won't be against seeing Martinez having the ban from, I don't know, January onwards. A little change there.
It's one of those, like, what's the point in having a mind if you can't change it? There's nothing wrong with taking it back off a player. I personally can't see it because I don't think Gerrard would want to bring up that conversation again. Seems to be that we've just about got past the Tyrone Mings captain sort of debate, and that's probably because Mings is playing very well, as you mentioned. We'll come on to him as well. But yeah, I can't see that happening. But if it come to it, do it, because I think there's some games where you could drop McGinn and it wouldn't necessarily be to the effect of the overall performance. And again, we'll come on to McGinn, and I don't think he's been played in the position that gets the best out of him. But if he's out for one game, Martinez is your captain, and surely he would then keep the armband for those remaining games. So it's an interesting point you raise. Let us know in the comments what if that's something that maybe you would hope that Gerrard looked into perhaps in January in the World Cup. Because we're splitting up the season so much this year. There's no continuity. So I think if you took the armband off McGinn, say his final game, Brighton, as captain, I don't think anyone would really tell that in a couple of months later he's no longer captain. So yeah, we'll see. Moving on, first of the defenders, Matty Cash. You gave him a 5 out of 10, Ash?
5 out of 10, yeah. Matty Cash, supporters player of the year last season, John. Big fan favourite last season. Was quality. Got himself in the Polish team as well. And and ever present. I mean, he was scoring the Etihad, great goal. And had goals and assists to his game last season. We're yet to see that, aren't we? Yet to see the cash of last season. I think he had a bit of a confidence hit as well. Has he had the support ahead of him? Not quite sure. But yeah, I think if you speak to Cash himself, I think he'll say he's sit below his usual standards as well. So yeah, I'm hoping to see more from Cash. We'll see how his hamstring injury is. But yeah, Ashley Young's in ahead of him at the moment, given his form. But yeah, I've expected more from Cash. About you?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think it's always been that sort of the final ball with Matty Cash, hasn't it? He gives you everything in terms of athleticism, and he's always bombing up and down, and you can rely on him to do that. He's a midfielder or a winger who's kind of coming through the ranks at Forest. So you know what you're going to get, but at the same time, I think there's so much that he can do more as well, and that's testament to the player that he is. It's not criticism at all, and I think you say there, I think Cash probably knows that himself. Yeah, he had that flurry, didn't he, last season? I think it was the Brighton goal was obviously a really nice goal. Leeds at home, he got an assist. Leeds away, an assist, and Southampton. It was between about 4 or 5 games, that little run that he had, and then since then, no assists, and obviously that one goal against City when he comes up at the back post. So it's a tricky one. I think 5's fair because, again, we've had a poor start to the season, and I don't think any players necessarily cover themselves in glory, and there's a lot to... if we're giving these players 6 or 7s, then there's not too much room for improvement when there clearly is. So I think 5's fair. And yeah, Ashley Young's obviously been brilliant. I think we'll do Young next. So 7 out of 10 for Ashley Young for you so far, Ash.
Yeah, 37-year-old Ashley Young. Yeah, he said last week, age is just nothing but a number. Getting used to the ice baths now, isn't he, as well? So he looks after himself, Young. Such a leader on the pitch. I think Ramsey scored last week against Southampton, and Young went straight to the team straight afterwards. Said 10 minutes now, come on, switch on. Because Villa tend to concede when they score, don't they? So yeah, behind the scenes, Ashley Young has been massive, doing his coaching badges now as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he steps into the coaching department next season, maybe. Perhaps there. But yeah, mate, Ashley Young been brilliant. Did well against Bolton on his first start of the season. Coming against Man City, pocketed Phil Foden. And then against Southampton last week, did a good job. So Ashley Young, yeah, one of Villa's better performances this season. No brainer for him to sign on again for another year. So we'll see. Yeah, great start for him.
You could potentially bump him up again from a 7 maybe to an 8. Yeah, solid. I think it's true. Maybe he was exactly what we needed after coming after that West Ham game, and obviously Arsenal as well. We really were quite low, and Bolton we go 1-0 down in as well. So that's how low we were. But someone like an Ashley Young, an experienced head, more than just an experienced head as well, is clearly a quality player. And for a guy who says 37, 38 next year, his fitness levels, he's kept himself so well. 37's you get to like 34, 35 these days, and that's sort of when retirement will hit. But he keeps going, and you kind of like, well, next season management maybe or coaching, but I don't know, like you could probably carry on playing if you'd like to. I don't know, potentially in the Championship or maybe at Villa, who knows. Those are the two right backs. Obviously, Young can play quite versatile across the board. Moving on to centre backs, we'll start with Ezri Konsa. 5 out of 10 from you.
Yeah, I'll throw that at you first, John. Would you, Ezri?
Ezri's a tricky one. I think we all know the standards that you set in Project Restart season after that, the 20 to 21 campaign. Obviously, no fans in stadiums, but I think most Villa fans were probably banging on, saying England, the Euros, and then the World Cup.
Yeah,
something be in that frame. Gareth Southgate's got 6, 7 maybe centre backs in his squad at the moment. Could Konsa be one of those? A couple of years ago, you would have thought probably, but he slipped from those standards. So far this season, I don't think it's been particularly poor this season, but by all means, I'd give him a 6 out of 10. I think it's quite steady. I think digging around a couple of stats in his last 3, he's won 6 out of 7 ground duels, and then 8 out of his 11 aerial duels as well. So that's what, trying to do maths. Well, he's won quite a few of his duels, put it that way. And then Mings got a lot of credit for, I think he won all of his duels against Southampton, and Konsa was only out by 1. So I think I don't know, he probably goes under the radar a little bit considering the calibre of centre-backs we have in Carlos and Mings, but I hope that he can just get back to those levels of where he was. I think we'll touch on Callum Chambers soon, but I haven't particularly been too impressed by him. So he's got that run now at centre-half, where that's his spot. Obviously, we brought in Bednarek as well, but I'm not too sure on the game time he's going to get. But that position's Konsa's if he wants it. And obviously, you need that sort of familiarity between the centre-halves. Mings, Konsa, they know each other really well, obviously, from playing for a few years now as a two. So hopefully he can get back to those levels that he showed. But for now, I think 6 out of 10 is probably about fair.
I'll give him a 5. Yeah, there's a running theme here. Players who performed well last season aren't doing it this season at the moment. Cash being one of them. Konsa, Luca Dean as well. He hasn't made the impact he did last season, and now out injured. So, yeah, Konsa, I've been raving about him for years. I thought he should be in the England squad for the Euros, given his form then. But yeah, he's dipped below them standards now. Another one with the confidence hits, and when you lose games, it's going to happen, isn't it? So, yeah, I can see Konsa kick on now. In the last 2 games, he's been great. More of the same, please.
Yeah. We'll touch on Callum Chambers quickly. He hasn't played too much this season, but when he has played, I'm not sure. I think obviously when we did our pre-season preview a couple of months ago now, I wanted him next to Carlos, and I thought he was really that sort of unsung hero that we had last season. But I've been a little disappointed with him when I watched him this time around. I think Bolton, he was rocked a little bit, as were many of our players, to be fair. And I remember Konsa bailed him out a couple of times against West Ham. So it's been a bit of a slow start from this season, I think. And for Chambers, he needs to stay consistent because of the competition that we have in those centre-back positions. And I'm not too sure if Gerrard not that he doesn't fancy him, but obviously we brought him in the January and he played a bit, but then he gets taken out of the team and there's no sort of continuity there. And I think Conser has a better run at starting games, more so than Chambers. So I think I'll give him a 5 out of 10. I think you went 5 as well, Ash.
Yeah, funny one, Chambers, isn't it, really? Yeah, doesn't really get the look in. He should deserve sometimes.
Yeah.
Hasn't put a foot wrong whenever he's played. Really good over pre-season. Good on the ball. And yeah, who knows? I mean, it cashes out long-term now. Well, not long-term. It cashes out for a few weeks. I can't see Gerrard throw Augustinson in at left back. Maybe Conser could shift over to right back and Chambers could slot back in there. Or with Kamara's injury now, could Chambers do what he did at Burnley and slot in there? You don't know. They're a bit of a utility man, is Chambers. But yeah, he's been a decent signing. I asked Gerrard how much he cost. He said cheap. So he didn't give me a figure, but yeah, been a good, decent signing back in January. Yeah, he'll be hoping for more starts moving forward now. So, but whether he gets them, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, you need those players, don't you? But it's a shame that he hasn't quite been allowed to have that continuity, because I think that's what's going to bring the best out of most of our players. They need that. Talking about consistency, Tyrone Mings, probably the most consistent player so far this season. What do you think?
Yeah, fantastic, Tyrone Mings. The way I dealt with that on the eve of the new season as well, being dropped. He did have an injury, but he was dropped. Captaincy stripped of him, and I think he's focused on his game now, and I think he's made a mistake, really, to be honest with you. He's been brilliant, Mings, and back to the form he showed previously. So yeah, Tyrone Mings, for me, Villa's standout player so far. From there, was it 8 games? Gave him an 8 out of 10. I think Mings has been really strong.
Yeah, I agree with that. 8 out of 10, I think, is bang on. I think anything lower than that would be putting him in and around that territory of players that are doing okay, but he's been super. I think he hasn't really been wrong. I think if you can keep it up throughout the season, you're looking at 9s out of 10 for the campaign, which would be his best season at Villa in terms of since we got promoted, I think. Yeah, almost throwing it back to that Gerrard captaincy. I mentioned earlier, no one's really talking about it anymore, but here we are. Do you think that's been vindicated now? The fact that it's taken off the captaincy, in Gerrard's words, simply that'll allow him to focus on his own game. At the time, I did actually agree with it. I thought it's maybe slightly harsh to do it so late into pre-season, but the actual reasoning, I couldn't, disagree with.
Yeah, he spoke about it on Friday, didn't he, Gerrard, as well? You just want Tyrone to focus on Tyrone. And look what we're seeing now. Less mistakes, worrying about his own game. And his standards are higher now as well. So, yeah, I think Mings has been great. That decision there, totally vindicated for me. I would have thought that the captaincy to McGinn would have kicked him on again as well. But as he said today in an interview up in Scotland, he's taken time, be alien to him to begin with, and hoping he comes back from Scottish international duty with a bit of confidence now, McGinn. But, yeah, the decision to take the pressure and the spotlight off Mings from Gerrard was a bit of a clever move for me.
Yeah. A quick word on Diego Carlos as well. He's been posting videos and photos on his Instagram, which is great to see. He's in different leg machines and he's walking around without crutches, obviously still in his boot because he's ruptured his Achilles only, 6 weeks ago now. So it's still a very long road to recovery, but Gerrard seemed really optimistic. I know you spoke to him about it a few times, Ash. What was the sort of flavour of what he was saying? He's quite optimistic he's going to still have a fair chunk of the season remaining.
So that was the words. Fair chunk of the season. Remaining optimistic on him. Carlos, I've seen the videos. He's got the world's biggest quad muscles, hasn't he? You seen the size of them? Incredible. So yes, strong guy. Working hard at Baltimore Heath. Cruel blow, that one. On his own debut. Looking good. And big summer signing. Gerrard wanted to build around him and Kamara, strengthening that spine of the team, and so key to Villa this season. So that's been taken away from us. And yeah, the early signs were good. I've seen him throughout pre-season over in Rennes as well. He scored in Rennes, I think. Yeah. So yeah, the early signs were really good and positive, and we've had that taken away. Very cruel and typical Villa, as they say.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I think you mentioned it before. He had that sort of aura about him that he could be a bit of a fan favourite, be that player that we haven't had for a few years now. Maybe the closest thing to that was Tyrone Mings when we were in the Championship. Quality player, and might have even been banging on the door for the World Cup as well with Brazil.
100%.
They've got a good squad, but Diego Carlos himself is a brilliant player. So, yeah, I think we both match a 6 out of 10 for Carlos. We haven't seen too much of him yet, of course, but we know what he's going to do us. It's a real shame, Carlos and Mings, that if Mings was really playing at the level that he has been as well, with him next to him, it's a really solid two, that. So maybe that's something to look forward to later in the season. Can we end the season well? And hopefully we have a good middle bit as well. The final defender that's played a significant part of the season, Luca Dean, slightly underwhelming, not just this season, maybe since he joined as well. I think maybe I was expecting a bit more than what he's been delivering. Again, different styles under Gerrard. Gerrard's still trying to implement his philosophy, and a lot of that does involve wing backs. So maybe Luca Dean's still getting used to exactly what Gerrard wants. But 5 out of 10, I think that's fair.
Fair. I think Lucas as well. I'd say the same. He expecting more from himself as well, more assists and being a threat in the final third and better defensively as well. So yeah, I'm expecting more from Lucas. I'm just hoping that ankle injury isn't too bad. Yeah,
that's it's a naughty one. I think there hasn't really been a time frame on that too much, unless I've missed that. There's no time frame so far, I don't think. No. Yeah, tricky one. Yeah, more from Dean, please. And he's got loads of assists at Everton, didn't he? We haven't seen too much of that at Villa so far. Again, maybe that's just different circumstances. What would you say is our best back four then so far this season? Actually, probably picks itself, to be fair, but
it does, don't it? You having Luca Dean in there, or
I think you have to have Luca Dean in there just for competition. We haven't seen much of Ludwig or Augustinsson, have we? Leeds and Forest. It's a bit of a baptism of fire, that, to be fair, going to Ellen Road, then the City Ground. Probably hasn't had an atmosphere like that for.
No.
He's played obviously for some big clubs, but it's quite some pressure games as well. So a bit of an introduction for him too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, man. Maybe he'll shift Ashley Young over to left back and try to push Konsa. Konsa played right back in the club against Bolton. He might do that if cash isn't available. But Martinez in goal. Strongest back four this season. Ashley Young right back. Mings, Konsa, and Lucas left back.
Yeah. I think that would have to be it. Yeah, obviously Diego Carlos towards the end of the season, so hopefully he can return and play a significant portion of the season. But not sure. He's still in his boot. Obviously, he's making good progress, but it's difficult to sort of put a time on it. Really, I'm no sort of medical expert. Moving on to the midfielders, then Ash, got a few to go through here. So let's start with John McGinn, the captain. I rate him about 5 out of 10 as well, and I think we have to. It sounds a little bit harsh, and he has been criticised quite a lot, maybe slightly unjust in my opinion. The start of the season, he hasn't been at the top of his game, but he isn't being asked to do everything that we know John McGinn can do on a football pitch. He still has that tank, and he's clearly still got goals and assists in him, as we see for Scotland every week. And Gerrard's watching those games. He knows what he can give him as well. But I don't know, is it building a team around John McGinn? But if you don't do that, then you're taking away quite a lot that he can give you. So I'm not sure, but your reflections after the first 7 on McGinn?
Yeah, funny one. McGinn comes in for a lot of flack, doesn't he? Obviously, because he's captain now and a lot expected of him. Interesting comments from Gerrard last week. Said he's been fantastic off the ball. So we all know what he means by that. Doing the dirty stuff and getting amongst it and winning the ball back and giving it to others. Probably been a little bit suspect with the ball this season, John, and his distribution in that sense. But yeah, funny one. Is it 5 goals in his last 11 caps for Scotland? It's an incredible record he's got up there, and they look like 2 completely different players, don't they? They're playing in different roles. Obviously, McGinn, the Scotland McGinn, he's playing as a 10, getting into the box, getting on the end of things, Lampard-esque kind of thing. And back at Villa, he's deployed much deeper. He's playing in the fullback position at times and looking to ping balls across field. And yeah, it's a funny one with the McGinn. His managers, Gerrard said he's been trying too hard to find that form of late, and he came off 3 games in a row, didn't he? Which rarely happens. If you ask McGinn again, I think he'd expect more from himself. He's desperately trying to find form. He's desperate to really, really do it this season with the captain's armband on. So, yeah, hopefully more to come, and hopefully this international break does him the world of good. Come back, puff your chest out, and get back to the McGinn of old, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you say, he's been taken off like 3 times in the last 3. I think, if anything, that just shows that he's not part of that system, or he doesn't particularly work well in what Gerrard's asking him to do. If he's your captain, and again, Gerrard rates him extremely highly, and I think as does every Villa fan, but he's not being deployed in that position that we know that we can get a lot from him. And if players like Coutinho or Buendia aren't, showing that, or even a Bailey at some points, why don't we let McGinn loose? Sounds a bit. You need to let the guy loose because he does, you say what he's doing for Scotland, and it's a real asset. So maybe games against Leeds, City away, sorry, Nottingham Forest away, the Sea Ground, when you've got to really dig in and show something. McGinn's probably a perfect player that you need to do that. So it'll be interesting what Gerrard does in, say, the next few weeks, because you've got 6 weeks now to the World Cup, 8 games. There's a lot of experimenting, I'd presume, that's going to happen. He's gone back to basics a little bit, Gerrard. So wonder if he's just going to let McGinn sort of do his thing and sort of strip it back a little bit in the forward areas. We'll see. We match each other on 5 out of 10 for McGinn. Douglas Luiz could have left the club only a couple of weeks ago with Arsenal. It's a strange one, Luiz, because he doesn't play every game, and for a player that's apparently £40 million worth, that was his valuation on deadline day anyway. And that Chelsea apparently interested in, Liverpool, Arsenal have all been linked to as well. Other teams in Europe, Atletico Madrid. Yeah, he can't get into the Villa team. It's a real strange one. And again, maybe that's Gerrard's shape and system, that we're trying to put square pegs in round holes. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I've rated him 6 because he hasn't been superb. He's scored a few corners, but then he hasn't been at a low level. I think Luiz is always that sort of 6 out of 10 player that you know what you're going to get from him. He keeps the ball really well, and that's probably why so many top teams are looking at him.
The curious case of Douglas Luiz, one of the hardest players to rate in player ratings as well, because I think he moves the ball quite quickly, keeps it well, and he struck up a really decent partnership with Kamara. Every time they was on the field together, him and Kamara played well, linked up well. Remember that Man City game that they played well together in that midfield. So yeah, Douglas Luiz. What will happen with him in January, I'm not quite sure. And he's got that party piece now, hasn't he? The corners. Went close against Southampton with another one. But he's only started 2 games. Which is pretty surprising, really, given Gerrard's comments on him and Villa's reluctantness to sell him to Arsenal on deadline day. So, yeah, 6 out of 10 is fair. I think he's done a decent job whenever he's come into the team. Nothing more, nothing less, really. So, I do like Douglas. I would like to see him tied down on a new deal. I think he's important. We'll see with that one.
I presume he's going to be playing more now that Kamara's out for the best part of 2 months. Obviously going to miss the next 8 games before the World Cup. So you're looking at holding midfielder. Is he going to bring Nakamba out from the cold? Possibly not. He hasn't got any match fitness. Douglas Luiz, I presume, is a shoo-in for those 8 games, playing that holding role. Not really that role that he'd like to play. But it's an interesting one. What about Kamara, Ash? Probably our best player so far this season. You can make Tyrone Mings actually played well, but you can make an argument that if we had more around him, or if we had more consistency around him, everything that he does is better, if that makes sense, because of the position that he plays in.
Yeah.
It's probably a very poor comparison, but it almost reminds me of Idrissi Gueye, and that obviously was a very poor season that we had in 15-16, so this is quite an extreme comparison, but a player that gives you a lot, but you're not kind of maximising everything that he does give you. And I think so far you could rate him anywhere between a 6 to an 8, sort of depending on how consistent he's been. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10.
It's fair, yeah. I'll give him a 6. I did. Feel a bit harsh now, but yeah, Kamara's been great. The fans have liked what they've seen from him since his arrival, and just settles things down in there. He's always in the right place. Always pops up in the right place at the right time to take the sting out of the opposition attacks, and always shows for the ball. Great pass for the ball as well. Some of Villa have lacked in that number 6 position for a while now, and big presence as well, big size of Kamara, and gets himself about as well. So yeah, disappointed with his knee injury now. It's typical. When it rains, it pours, don't it? So yeah, but yeah, the early signs were great as well. I thought he'd be more a bit like a Gareth Barry type, doing his later years, sits in the hole, pings it around. Good defensively, good positionally as well, and was so important in that position. So I'll be interested to see now how Villa go on without him. Leand and Dendoncker, that one probably comes straight in. How important that deal now looks is pretty incredible, really, to get Dendoncker on deadline day. And then a couple of weeks later, Kamara's out injured. So without Dendoncker, you're lacking options there, aren't you, Cullen? Santon to come back in from the cold. They can be, you mentioned as well. So, but yeah, gutted to see him injured now for best part of 9 games. But yeah, decent start from him.
Yeah, very encouraging. I think he's 22 and to have, as you mentioned, that sort of intelligence to know and sniff out danger is quite something for his age. He's played probably 100 league games already in his career, made his debut like 17. He's a phenomenal player, and you just hope that Villa can get the best out of him whilst we're trying to go places as well. You don't want to start losing these players and you haven't benefited from having them, the last of our central midfielders, I suppose you could call him, Jacob Ramsey. Again, I think a player that plays a role that seems quite, I don't know, it's almost like a bit of a luxury role in a sense, that sort of number 10 role. But to me, he's almost anything but a luxury player because he graphs around. And I don't think, sometimes he can fade in and out of games. And I would say that. But he gives you a lot off the ball, as Gerrard says. I think that's probably why he's started so many games already this season. He gives you everything that you need off the ball. He's a willing runner off and with the ball too. Crucial goal against Southampton. He probably wants to hit around that double figures mark this term. So he started okay. Again, probably steady Eddie.
Yeah, for me as well. Yeah, the last 2 games have been great for me as well. And Gerrard's been changing his role around as well, as an 8, as a 10. And for a player who's only 21 to be doing both jobs like that, shows a good player you are. So, yeah, he wants to hit the double figures for goals, I think, as well. And maybe a late contender for the England squad for the World Cup, maybe, should his form rocket from now until then. But, yeah, the early signs are good. Nominated for Premier League Player of the Month, which is a nice confidence booster for him as well. We're slowly starting to see the form we've seen last season from him. Been a slow start from him this season, JJ. But now, last few weeks, he's kicking on. He's looking more confident when he's taking the ball, and he wants to get in the end of things and get in the box and score goals. So yeah, starting to warm up now, JJ. A lot what I've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you kind of get a feeling that you could complement the likes of Kamara and McGinn very well, but we just haven't seen it yet. Whether that's coaching or systems, again, the intricate parts that it's down to Gerrard, down to Critchley that we haven't quite seen yet. Moving on to the sort of wider forwards, I suppose, and play the inside 10s, whatever you want to call them. We'll start with probably the brightest player that we had in pre-season, Leon Bailey. Obviously, he scored quite a few goals in pre-season. Looked like the player, again, it's only pre-season, but looked like the player that we bought from Bayer Leverkusen the year before. Again, I think it's probably a winger. He floats in and out of games, but you want him to come up with those moments. I think that's why we paid big money for him. And he's had them so far this season. Really good goal against Bolton. Almost, was it Bournemouth that he hit the bar when he cuts inside and hits the bar? Yeah, that could have been a really important goal to. I think that would have made it 1-1 maybe, or was it 2-1? I can't remember.
But and Palace as well. Yeah,
Palace as well. Yeah. So he's had his moments. Again, you need him to be getting in around the double figures mark. So he's not necessarily on track to do that, but we've seen much more of him at the start of this season than what we saw possibly throughout the whole of last season, barring that that one game against Everton. Yeah,
2 goals and an assist in his 8 games so far. Been a bit hot and cold as those kind of players are, aren't they? They were hit or miss one week after the other, and took his goal against Man City really well. But yeah, last time out against Southampton, struggled to make an impact. But yeah, I mean, I liked his work against Palace. I thought he was one of Villa's best player against Palace, and he's looked okay. Bournemouth, I thought he was good. One of the rare players who was good that day. Had a strong summer, injury-free now as well, which is a bonus. But yeah, it's waiting for him to really kick on and score more freely and be a threat. And it didn't really happen for him last time against Southampton. So big money signing as well. Let's not get away from that. It's £30 million. Best part of 30 million quid we spent on him. So we're expecting a bit more now from him, and hopefully he can be a big player from now until when the World Cup starts.
Yeah, it's one of those players who, again, sort of waiting to burst into life, and he has done that at parts this season. But you need to rely on him. You need that consistency. The one good thing that we have seen it, he hasn't, touch wood, he hasn't. Don't think he's picked up an injury yet this season. As in, obviously last year that was a real problem for him. Why he couldn't string together more than like 4 games. So that's something that, again, probably hasn't gone under the radar, but something that is a positive. I know that's quite a loose positive, but for Leon Bailey, that's he has more confidence in his body, confidence when he's playing, running at players and doing his things. That's what you need from those, electric wingers that, really give you that pace. It's something that we don't have in the team. It's probably a big reason why we're going after Ismail Sarr as well. So a lot for Bailey to do still this season, but a positive start. Felipe Coutinho, just going back on Bailey, I think you gave him 6 out of 10. I think that's fair. You could probably lean towards a 7 if you come up with a couple more moments, but 6 out of 10 is fine. Coutinho, I think excluding Southampton, I've been really underwhelmed by what he's been giving us. I think we said again in the pre-season preview that we did, Matt mentioned that he was probably the one player that you must forget because it's Coutinho. You almost think, he will turn up and he is going to provide a spark. But we can't really beat around it. He's got 1 goal contribution in like 18 games. It's that's well off. You need more than that. And it's all well and good giving us sparks and little flicks here and there, but you need results. You need something tangible. And against Southampton, I think he was close to that. He had 1 moment, didn't he, when he flicked it around the corner and shot just over. So it's much better. Maybe that was, the Brazil national team. He obviously didn't get picked this round of fixtures. First time since he joined Villa.
Yeah,
that he hasn't been picked here. So I'd be inclined to maybe give him one of the lowest scores, and I'm only saying that because you have to rate him by high standards. It's Coutinho, who's the highest paid player in the club's history, presumably. So I'm happy to give him if we're working on 0.5, so I'm giving him a 4.5.
Oh, 4.5. Yeah, I'll give him a 5. Probably a bit too generous there as well. I think that not being called up by Brazil's hurt him, I think, a little bit. And that came out against Southampton, much more fired up, much more willing to make the difference this time. And I think he's crossed for the goal. He's crossed for Watkins, and then Jacob put it in. But yeah, much better from Coutinho last time out. Interesting the build-up as well. Gerard said Coutinho has had his strongest week so far this season. Back at Bodymore and hopefully now he takes that into this mini cluster of games and forces his way back into the Brazil setup. They think the world of him in Brazil, don't they? Superstar there. His goals and assist record for them is very good as well. And I think not being called up in this international break really hurt him, and he needs to refocus himself now, reset a little bit and show the Coutinho of old, really. Shown it in glimpses, hasn't he? I've been concerned with him cramping up on the hour mark. That's been a big concern of mine. In fact, I don't think he's done a 90 minutes yet. But yeah, a lot of hopes for Coutinho. I thought at the time, £17 million, no-brainer. Get it done, get him fit, and it could be the difference for us. But we're yet to see that, really. And now's the time to show it. I think got to show it now. And 5 out of 10 from me. Should be a 4, maybe.
Yeah, it's no, we have to rate these players harshly because they're not playing at the levels, especially that Coutinho can get to. And it's all well and good. Yeah, he's like comparisons to like James Rodriguez when he signed for Everton, but I think it's different because when he first joined Villa in that first 10, 11 games, he was brilliant. He's kind of setting the world on fire for us, and his best player I've seen, since Grealish. I know that was only from then anyway, a couple of months ago. But that one player that really has that sort of stardust, and it's gone. So he really does need to start getting that back because that could be the key to Villa changing their fortunes, I suppose. Moving on to Emi Buendia. Difficult one really to judge because again after the first 7 games I don't think anyone expected him to be playing a massive portion of the season, and so far he hasn't, and I don't think that's going to change as we go on. I think the Everton game he comes on the pitch and changes it, a couple of really neat touches, obviously gets his goal, but apart from that we haven't seen too much else than that. 5 out of 10 I think is probably about fair again.
Yeah, giving that as well. He's more of an impact player now, isn't he? When he starts, he doesn't really do it. When he comes on, he changes the game. He can change the game. So I think he started against Palace, didn't do much, and he started against Arsenal. What was he like against Arsenal? I wasn't there, John.
Yeah, he's up and at you, but ultimately there's no,
You want an end product, don't you?
You get the performance exactly. You can get bums off seats, but if there's no, you know what I mean. If there's no, again, something tangible at the end of it, it's almost pointless.
A lot of money, club record signing as well, and you're expecting a little bit more from him, aren't you? He's had his bedded in season now, and is he getting the chance? Maybe not, because obviously Gerard loves Coutinho, doesn't he? And he's like Jacob up there as well as the 2 number 10s of late. But yeah, I think at the moment he's a squad player, and he's looking to make an impact from off the bench. So yeah, tough one for him. I wonder how. Yeah, penny for his thoughts. I don't think he's given many interviews, but it'd be nice to have a sit down with him and discuss how his time at Villa's gone and what he hopes for the future. But yeah, disappointing start for the season from Emma. Have I lost you, John?
He's Ollie Watkins. We'll start with the highest scoring player, I presume, in Ollie Watkins. Am I here? Hello?
Yeah, I've got you. You're right, yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
You got me?
Yeah.
Back. Yeah, probably my internet. Two final players, Ollie Watkins, Danny Ings. We'll start with the higher rating of the two, I presume. Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, it's been very good for me. A bit of a thankless task, isn't it, up there for him? Occupying two centre halves on a weekly basis, more often than not. Picked out for price from Pep Guardiola earlier this month. Said he was incredible, and he gave Stones and Diaz a bit of a run around up there. So yeah, it's so important to Villa. I know it was 1 goal and a couple of assists from him this season. He wants more goals. We know that, but I think his game's not tailored around goals. I think it's creating goals for others and being a nuisance. And as we've seen last week against Southampton, his header forces a save, and then Jacob's there to put it in. So, yeah, I think his game is much more about goals, just an important player for Villa, giving his energy. He's running and opens up the play for us. And I think, yeah, strange decision to not play him against Bournemouth on the opening day, looking back. Giving a bit of pumping balls up to the Danny Ings, and Danny Ings got just swallowed up, really. Didn't have a kick. So, and yeah, he's Villa's main man at the moment. Watkins up there, so he's nudged Ings out the way, and he's done all right for me. One of Villa's better performers, and I've given him a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know what you're getting from Watkins, and you can't sort of dress it up as something that it isn't. Again, as you mentioned, that running, it's completely invaluable. Probably the reason why he gets a bit stick sometimes, or again, we're not getting much from the players behind him. And I think if you can get Watkins doing his thing, and again, he chips in with double figures every season, but you need more from Coutinho, you need more from Buendia and Leon Bailey, other players. And that's what's gonna, probably boost his game as well. More confidence at the top of the pitch, the better for the ultimate result. And a word on Danny Ings. You mentioned Bournemouth didn't really pull up many trees, and since then we haven't seen too much of him. 5 out of 10 is your result. I think I back that as well. I'd match that. I haven't been particularly impressed with him. Again, solid pre-season, but not. Yeah, similar to Buendia, really. I was expecting a bit more in the first 7 games, but it hasn't quite happened yet.
No, but his numbers are decent, John. 4 starts, 2 goals.
Yeah,
I know one of them came against Bolton, but yeah, expected a bit more from Danny Ings. Got off to a disappointing start against Bournemouth, non-existent down there, as were many others. And he's lost his place to Watkins, with Gerrard preferring Watkins now. So yeah, good goal against Everton, wasn't it? On the turn, left foot, bang. That was good. Scored against Bolton, but I think he hasn't done enough really. He played against West Ham, didn't he? Didn't do enough there, and since then he's managed like 13 minutes or something like that. So, I think you can sum up Ings' confidence at the moment, the way he took that shot on at the halfway line against Southampton. A confident Ings takes a couple of touches and just lofts it in, whereas at the moment he's a bit erratic. He went for it, didn't he, with his left foot?
I forgot about that. He comes on his left foot and he's got yards and yards of space, and I don't even think he'd need to be told about that any other time. There's no one really around him, and you say he swung a boot, and it's a good chance. But yeah, that's a really good point, actually. That definitely sums up where he is, and that's Danny Ings, a player that can get 20 goals a season. So
yeah,
we need to get him back into that sort of into that headspace again, of where he was.
That's it. Yeah, and like you say, over pre-season, his finishing was great, and you're thinking, okay, can he really kick on now? So interesting, Danny Ings, John. Obviously, he'll enter his final. It's 1 year left on his contract next summer. Yeah. So very interesting, that one, isn't it? One to watch, that one.
Yeah, one that's kind of whittled down a little bit. It's almost surprising when I saw it. It's maybe there's a kind of mentioned in another podcast, but maybe a striker search on the way in the coming summers. You need to get your sort of ducks in order to get big players. So that's an interesting one. We'll end. Those are all the players that have played a significant part of the season so far. Who's impressed you the most in the first 7 games of the season?
Obviously, isn't it? It's Tyrone Mings, isn't it? Gotta be.
I think so as well. Yeah. There's a couple of shouts. Tyrone Mings, maybe Ashley Young as well. He's impressed me in terms of maybe being surprised, but who's a star player. It's Tyrone Mings. I don't think anyone can argue with that.
No.
Player that maybe can do a bit more. Someone that's potentially flying under the radar a little bit. Can we, who needs to up their game? Should we say from now on? The rest of the season.
Got to be Coutinho for me, John. I think we both agree on that. You mentioned him heavily there. Coutinho, I need to see more from him. Not just the flashes and glimpses. Need to see him taking guys by the scruff of the neck. Can he do that? We'll see. Big few weeks for him now. With World Cup selection not far away, and he's got to do it in the Villa shirt now.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. There's obviously a couple that we haven't been performing great as a team, and I think everyone needs to look in the mirror a little bit. But yeah, I think Coutinho, again, just by the high standards he sets, he's not having a particularly horrendous start to the season, but that's the player that needs to be playing well if we're going to get near a top 10 finish. And again, highest paid player in the club's history, £70 million is cheap for Coutinho, but if he's not turning up, that's £70 million wasted at the end of the day. So we've forked out a lot of money for it to work, and it needs to work at the end of the day. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. 12 days off. We've had Ash against Leeds. What do we need to see apart from obviously 3 points? What do we need to see to get, to stop a meltdown, should we say, from supporters on social media?
More of the same we've seen in the last two games, really. Good defensively. I think we lost 3 on the spin, haven't we, away from home this season in the Premier League. And in them 3 games, we conceded after half an hour in each of them. Early goals against Bournemouth, Palace and Arsenal after half an hour. So going to goal down on the road, early doors, does you no favours, does it? So need to shut up shop a little bit. And we need the big players to come to the fore. Coutinho being one of them. Can we see the Scotland McGinn burst into life at Villa now as well? Get a goal for him, and that's what we need to see. And really intriguing now. 2 away games back to back. Intimidating crowds up and down there. Leeds and Forest. Monday Night Football, the Forest one. Leeds, that'll be packed out there. Leeds don't really like Villa anyway. So big character test for them, and yet to win away from home this season. That needs to change, doesn't it? And hopefully next time out against Leeds. Yeah,
2 really important games. You pinpoint those 2, and then you've got your Brentford's at home, Brighton at home, all in the next 8. Apart from that, you've got Chelsea, Newcastle. Obviously missed a couple out there, but it's not an easy run from now to the World Cup, and we need to get results because, not to scaremonger, but we're not flying at the moment, are we? So we need to get wins. We need to get results before performances. For me, I think you've almost got that sort of mini pre-season again when the World Cup comes around. So we'll see how we get on. But that just about does us for today, Ash. So thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, I'll take you as host every week, John. We'll leave Dan now,
well, thanks everyone for watching and participating in the comments as well. And we'll catch you next time. Up the Villa.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.